So hey everyone, welcome to Coffee and Celebrities. In this particular video, I'm going to be talking about the massive sort of hysteria that's surrounding this new series that has gone on to Netflix, which is called Baby Reindeer. So if you want to join me in this video in discussing what my thoughts are around this and this recent Piers Morgan interview, then this is the channel for you, where I discuss a bit of a psychological analysis into the behaviour and everything else regarding celebrity, the rich, famous, high profile, whatever you want to call it. And so yeah, this channel could be for you. So if you want to join me in that, then don't forget to like this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in a minute. So there might be some of you that know this and some of you that don't, but on Netflix at the moment, there is a series called Baby Reindeer. Now, I have looked at some of this. I was intrigued within it because of the concept of why this was made. The main actor in this, well, there's two main actors, obviously the lady that plays the stalker and the main actor who is the guy who was stalked, and he plays himself, which I found very interesting to start with, and I'm going to get into that. His story was that he was stalked over a period of years by this particular woman, and there's obviously a lot of things that happened, and he states that when you see the series, it says that it is a true story. So that leads you to believe that everything that happens from sort of there, maybe there's a little bit creative license, but everything that happens was true. Now, some of it is pretty shocking. There was one particular, because obviously if I was going to talk about it, I thought, I need to watch it. There was one particular episode that I chose not to watch because and I'm going to put a trigger warning up here because it is about abuse. And it is about this. I chose to, I think it's around episode 4, I believe. I chose not to watch this purely and simply because from what I had gleaned from people, it was quite traumatic to watch and it was quite explicit. So I would advise anybody, if you're going to go away and now watch this, if you haven't seen it already, that episode might be the one not to watch, because especially if you've gone through something, because apparently it's very triggering for a lot of people. So I'm going to look at this in a way from sort of all sides. When you're sort of watching this as a series, I found it actually quite infuriating, because in a way what I started to notice, given the job that I do, is that the main character starts, in my opinion, doesn't take any responsibility. Now, I know that we can look at aspects of trauma bonding, why he got in this sort of weird sort of situation with this woman who he states is his stalker. It starts off where he states that he feels sorry for her. He sort of makes this statement of, this is all because of a cup of tea, like he gave her a cup of tea. And, it sort of went from there. But what I sort of notice is that he encourages this relationship, very weird sort of relationship with this woman. He starts off where they're friends. It becomes obvious that she likes him more than just a friendship. But instead of shutting it down, he does at points say we're just friends, but he also encourages her. And I think when you read between the lines, there was an element where he enjoyed the flattery that it gave. His ego was being stroked, if you like, from having this woman like him as much as what she did, that he's stating. He's also, in his own words, a failed comedian. He said he came to London to try and make it big. It didn't happen. There's a lot of very drawn out scenes where they're showcasing him being a failed comedian. you know, each to their own. There are some comedians I find funny and some I don't. So I think it's subjective to the person. But what I kind of found disturbing, if I'm honest, as a personally and professionally, was the fact that he played himself. And the fact that he then reenacts a scene that he says happened to him, and in great detail. For most people that I know, now I understand there's always exceptions to the rule. When you go through this, and I have to be careful what I say because YouTube flag words, a lot of the time that I know, one of the things that you would not want to do is reenact that, because it would be devastating. So when I'm looking at the concept of why he felt the need to reenact this scene, because it's not as if he's got a character playing him, he's playing this himself. And trying to look at that from the therapeutic angle of perhaps was it a way where if he reenacted it himself, he could almost change the script in a sense of controlling the situation. It's one of the things that I teach people in therapy is and life coaching is to change your memory. So one of the ways to get through a trauma is to create a more positive memory. So say if it's a sexual trauma, then it's about, you know, in some ways helping that to change would be to find a relationship, a loving relationship with somebody, and to create a close contact and bond with that person, to be able to have sexual relations with somebody, and it's intimate, loving. And so what it then starts to do is change the trauma. It's never going to fully go away, but it would start to change the memory because you're replacing it with something very lovely and rather than something very horrible. And so in some ways, I wonder if there was an element of him trying to change what happened and take control of it, because obviously it's in a very structured, you know, you're going to have cameramen and people there. But I also found that doing that is at a huge risk as well. And sometimes, and I've often said this, that I think that in some cases, and I don't know if it is, I certainly know, having been in the industry a little bit, that what they should have on set is a therapist on set, because some roles that you can play can be devastatingly traumatic and have massive lasting effects. And some people also need therapy after playing that role. And when you're someone that's doing it when you have no idea how you're going to react is one thing. But when there is that potential of harm, in a way, almost like self-harm, where you're putting yourself into a situation that could potentially have catastrophic effects and on your psyche, that's another thing. And so the fact that he knowingly, in a sense, went into playing himself, knowing that this was going to be part of it, because it didn't have to be. He could have suggested it. He didn't have to reenact it, but he chose to. And I find that very worrying, that this is now happening, that we're almost glorifying to some degree an element of this, albeit that some people have called him brave for bringing it out. And I understand there's an element of that too. But it feels, as I was watching it, and not that episode, but all the other stuff of it, it felt to me almost as if this was like there was almost like a hint of narcissism where he was concerned. Like he was so, almost like I got the impression that he was so desperate to be famous that he's tried everything else, and I'm guessing that he's pitched this or someone's approached him about this and he's decided to go with it. Now, again, it's his story. He can choose to do what he wants. But the other aspect of this is that he's done this as a true story. And so then what's happened is that all the people that he's brought in to act the parts of the other people are going to be watching, you know, if they're based on real people, they're going to be watching this. So they're going to see themselves portrayed in a certain way. And whether that's honest or not, we don't know. And one of the things that has happened is the woman who this was based upon, the stalker, apparently people have found who she is. Now, he has said that he wanted this protected. He tried to hide her identity, but people have also said that he didn't do it well enough. So then there begs the question, did he do this purposely? Because then there comes a duty of care. Because what we now have is that the woman who is allegedly the stalker has been found, and she has now done an interview with Piers Morgan. Now, I sort of used to quite like Piers Morgan, but what I do find with Piers Morgan is I feel that he jumps on things and he doesn't particularly care about the consequences. And I feel that we have a similar situation here. This woman, and you can see that there's been things that she's been saying, things that, you know, her Facebook page, unfortunately, is quite open. So you can see some of the things that she's writing. She's coming out publicly saying things. And I feel that it's very clear to me that this woman has some problems, in a sense, around her mental health. That you can see that some of her responses are not how most people would respond. So then you're sort of thinking, well, okay, so there's clearly something here and she's obviously being very affected by what's going on. And the fact that she's apparently getting all these threats, people are trying to find out who she is and trying to hound her, which is obviously going to have effects on her. And when you see some of the things in social media where they're saying, well, you know, she deserves what she gets if she's going to stalk somebody, it's like, it's not as cut and dried as that. Because a lot of the things that she's saying now is that a lot of the things that this guy has said is not true. Like apparently in some of the things he said that she went to prison. It's like that never happened. And so then you've got to say, well, if you're basing this as a true story but some of it isn't true, where do you go with that? And at what point do people have a duty of care? Because this could have been done in a way that it was created as fiction. He didn't have to play himself. You know, he could have created this as a story, as fiction, and then nobody else would have got hurt or affected by this, hopefully. And she would have been left alone. I don't think it's fair to say that just because she has done something, then the person then, you know, this particular person then deserves everything else that then comes from that. Because again, there's always different sides to a story. We don't know exactly what the truth is. Only the people that are involved know the truth. And then when you've got somebody that's coming out saying, well, this is true, but then the other person's going, well, no, it's not. Well, then who do you believe? Because I think that there's elements with that he's, you know, to me, he should have felt like, you know, his family have brought into this. You know, there's been relationships that he's had. He's portrayed them a certain way. And these people are based on real people that are going to be seeing this. And I think that there comes a point when are we just so far gone into voyeurism and not caring about what we watch or who's around that. And we don't care who gets hurt in the crossfire of that. I'm not saying that the person who stalked is a good person. I don't know. I don't know her. Whether he's a good person or not, I can only go by what I'm seeing. But what I can see is that, again, Piers Morgan has capitalised on a situation and using it under the guise of, well, I'm giving her say. I don't believe that for a second. I think what he's doing is he's recognised a means to get some attention, and he's used this person to do that, in all honesty. And I feel that that's also wrong. And he won't be the first person to do it. I'm sure there'll be other people clambering to interview her. And she'll get money from doing it. But the problem you have is that this woman does have a history of stalking. That is factually true. And so what then that does is it could open then more of that to happen. Or not only that this has serious repercussions on this particular woman, rather than getting help, which is probably what she needs, is then glorifying what she's done, and it then could just have devastating effects. And I do wonder if this is why we have just lost our way in society. To me, it was very similar to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who, for some of you who don't know, that she has recently been released from prison after unaliving her mother. And again, I know people hate me saying that, but I have to say it, because if I say certain words, it flags on YouTube and they take my channel, or they'll take the video down because of the Munchausen by proxy. In the beginning, when it happened, there was a lot of people that were very sympathetic to Gypsy. When she was even released from prison, there were people that were very sympathetic, but the media jumped all over it. They wanted to, I mean, she got married while she was in there, and people were quick to sort of celebrate that. But then, like everything, they then flip the tables and they turn on her. And this is going to be a similar type of situation where people might start even feeling sympathetic for this stalker person. And so, you know, then in a way what we're doing is we're glorifying the stalking that can happen, because people, when it doesn't happen to them, when it doesn't involve them, they find it amusing, they find it funny. But you're dealing with someone's real life here, and that's the difference. I'm going to do a video on Gypsy Rose, actually, because I find that also quite interesting. So if you are interested in that, then let me know in the comments. But this one, you know, I kind of want your opinion on that. What do you think? Do you think Piers Morgan was wrong in this? Have you seen the baby reindeer and you actually really enjoyed it? Did you think it was perfectly fine what's happened? You know, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this and what you think. You know, I think it's going to have disastrous effects. I think that we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg in what's going to be happening here. And I think that that's a real shame, because it could have been done very differently, and other people didn't need to be dragged into this. But let me know your thoughts on this. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't seen my other channels, I've got T&T, which is where I discuss the psychoanalysis and behaviour of the royal family, mainly Harry and Meghan, because they are the ones that do things. And also I have Tea and Therapy, which is where I give tips and tools and advice, etc. on mental health, on all sorts of things. I answer your questions when you drop things in the comments of the videos that you would like me to talk about, to give some advice on, because I know not everyone can afford a therapist. So that is also for you if you need it. If you want to treat me to a cuppa, because what I also do is I give free therapy to people outside of this who struggle financially and cannot afford a therapist. So I give them free sessions. So a lot of people that treat me to a cuppa support that. I also have a PayPal address if you don't want to buy me a cuppa, but you would like to support in some other way. I do have PayPal as well. If you want to join me on Instagram, I'm also over there. I'm not anywhere else at the moment because I just haven't had the time to sort out another platform. But my other platforms for T&T and also Instagram, Rumble, and I'm also on TikTok. So you can also follow me. But all the links of everything will be in the video description video box. You can find everything you need to know there. If you want to email me, my email address is also there. But like I say, give me your thoughts and your opinions in the comments. And like I always ask, is please be respectful and kind, because that doesn't cost anything. Anything that's hateful or nasty, I will delete. Constructive criticism, absolutely, but anything more than that, and unfortunately I will be deleting that comment. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of the day, whatever you are doing, and I will see you in the next video. So as always, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.